Friedrich Merz embarrasses himself completely and attacks our strategic partners so much that we have to be afraid. Maybe they'll really ban the Americans now. I can't even say it out loud. That they're allowed to use Ramstein, yes, so they wouldn't be allowed to use their own military base here in Germany anymore. That's what the Social Democratic Party is demanding now. Then there are the fuel prices. People are talking about a ripoff because they're taxing taxes. Oh no, it's because the energy companies are just raising prices now. But still, the accusation that they're taxing taxes definitely remains. And yes, to get this chaos under control, they're now demanding, hold on tight, the ban on fracking. Yes, that's about how you can put it. This is an absolutely new escalation here in Germany, and what the citizens think about it. All of that in this video in exactly this chronological order. But now let's first take a look at how Friedrich Merz has once again embarrassed himself to the bone, making me think, man, can it get any worse than Annalena Baerbock?
In Lebanon, after Israel announced a targeted ground operation in Lebanon, Germany, France, Italy, Canada and Great Britain are calling for a withdrawal from this plan.
That was the starting point for what made Friedrich Merz absolutely lose it right after. The fact that he didn't choke on his own spit, he's really done it all. Of course, Germany hasn't taken a clear stance, and once again, Germany is handling things in its own way. They just threaten both sides as if we definitely want to mess things up with both sides. If I may ask you for just one thing, YouTube doesn't want me to tell you the truth. And a like and a subscription would absolutely help this channel to be able to grow again. To tell you the truth out there and not the propaganda you get in the news.
Are very concerned about the situation in Lebanon. We strongly condemn that Hezbollah has now joined the fight against Israel on the side of Iran. Hezbollah must immediately stop these attacks and lay down their weapons.
Let me ask you directly, do you have children? Does anyone in your family have children? What happens when you tell these children don't do that and they just keep doing it? And now let me take it a step further. If you tell your neighbor, yeah, don't mow the lawn, what does he do? He'll automatically mow the lawn. As if anyone here in Germany would still listen. I mean, we can see that in Ukraine. The only thing Germany can do is throw a bunch of money at you. Please just keep dying over there at the front for our freedom. That's not a joke. You can look it up. Yeah, it just came through the news and I don't even want to get into it. I just read the headline. Is Putin preparing an attack on Estonia after he has completely taken over Ukraine, or only after that? Because all the other news says that the Russians aren't making any progress at all. So how is he supposed to attack Estonia if he doesn't even have any troops? But I'll tell you about that in a moment. What happened to NATO during the big NATO exercise? That is, I would say you could really call it fatalism. It can't get any worse than that.
That's why we strongly urge our Israeli friends, don't take this path, it would be a mistake. We also agree on this with our important partners in Europe.
Yes, these strategic partners, they had an exercise together with little Ukraine, and they really, and I'll say it in German slang, got their asses kicked by little Ukraine in the NATO exercise. Ukraine just showed NATO how to wage war, and they went down without a trace. That's what the DPA, among others, reports. But it's also important to note that the attack by Israel and the United States in Iran was a massive war of destruction funded by taxpayers' money. So it's really extreme. Billions were just wiped out. And now Germany comes along and says we'll just threaten both sides too. I really have to say it like this. Either you stay out of it and say we have nothing to do with the whole thing. By the way, that would ensure that we could, for example, continue to get energy. That means our ships could pass through there, just like, for example, Chinese ships. And yes, I keep checking that on the map. Strangely enough, everything that's sent to China is not being bombed. That does leave a bit of a bad taste, doesn't it? Or don't you think so?
Even as long as the war continues, we will not take part in ensuring free navigation in the Strait of Hormuz by military means. To this day, we are also not aware of any concept of how such an operation could even succeed.
That's why I'm making things difficult for myself with both sides instead of just saying I'll stay out of the whole mess. You know what, Israel? You know what, United States of America, that's your business? Yeah, that's entirely your business. You know what, Iran? You have to deal with it yourselves. Yeah, that's not us. We're not neutral Switzerland. However, by the way, there are now some people claiming that Iran has long-range weapons that could reach Ramstein in Germany. Purely theoretically, let me ask you, why hasn't Ramstein been hit by long-range missiles yet? Although we've already positioned ourselves against both sides anyway. No, Iran doesn't have long-range weapons that could reach here. If they had them, they likely would have used them long ago. Just like, for example, some rockets or drones flew over to Cyprus, so please don't be afraid they won't reach here. And that's why I say maybe it's better if we just stay out of this conflict completely and just see what happens later. Do I like Khamenei? Definitely not. Is he a dictator? Yes, he is. But I have to say, I don't think that's in Germany's interest. That we now ignite the next hotspot or we join the war on one of these two sides and see what happens. However, I believe that this will cost a lot of German citizens. That's just my opinion, by the way.
The oil companies have not managed to credibly explain how the pricing is done, and especially how the differences in the European comparison can be explained.
We see that with the same tax burden in Italy and France, the oil companies in Germany really charge significantly higher prices, up to 30 cents more. That cannot be explained, and it is also not acceptable.
Just as it is not acceptable to tax taxes. That's right, you heard correctly. Yes, they simply apply value-added tax to the entire package, which is actually a rip-off, and I think the antitrust office should really take a close look at that. However, that chart he held up reminds me of that customs table from Donald Trump. Are they all doing that now? Are they all doing it in the same style? Like, look here, we were able to put together a nice slide. By the way, those who just spoke are now demanding, because of this conflict, that the United States is no longer allowed to use the Ramstein airbase. And that's why I'm saying, isn't it extremely damaging to take a stand against both sides now? Maybe you should either be good friends with one side or stay out of it. By the way, did you actually hear that Switzerland was also threatened by Donald Trump or even by Iran? No, me neither. I wonder why that is. The only thing that happens is people set themselves on fire in buses, and that's bad enough. However, I have to be honest, the Swiss live with much less fear than we do at the moment.
Music. Review clause in the fracking ban law. The Bundestag has had it on the table since at least 2021.
Hey, I live right in the middle of the red zone. I think it would be super cool if they produced shale gas here. I could puke my guts out. Yeah, the federal government is now going to discuss whether to bring up the end of the end again, just like with the combustion engine ban. That means they would simply start extracting shale gas and shale oil here in Germany. And I hope that by now the technology is advanced enough that we don't end up with flammable water coming out of the faucet. By the way, just a little tip on the side, I don't know if you use something like this, just get yourself a distiller and distill your water before you drink it. Believe me, the stuff that's floating around in there, especially up here in the north, nobody wants to drink that. And yes, we've been doing that for quite some time. But please don't forget to add a small pinch of salt back in afterwards. Otherwise, you won't enjoy it for long in the long run. Just saying. A tip from me on the side, drinking healthy water is essential. By the way, I'm already on the road to recovery again. That means on Wednesday evening we'll have another awesome live stream together.